Hello, and welcome to the Casino Tears podcast. I'm one of your hosts, 10 Ton is number one, and joining me as my co-host is the one and only Ed Robinson from Roll to Win Craps. If you want more info on our show, please visit our page at casinotears.com. On this week's show, we discuss Stick Right 1, Pathway to Practice, Epiphanies, Variables. We also touch on the shooter's mentality, Fellini, Bone Tracker, SRR, Monster Rolls, Stickman Stays, and Ed gets excited about hardways. All right, Ed, are you ready?
I'm always ready.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, man. I'm excited.
You're going to talk to me about your successes.
Well, I actually want to talk to you because I've been talking to a lot of people.
You talk to more people than you talk to me, and I'm your freaking partner.
Yeah, that's why this works. All right, listen, Ed, I have to tell you something, which I don't really, you know what? Part of me wants to tell you, but part of me doesn't. But I got to tell you, Ed, for all the people listening that have heard us talk about our Las Vegas dice influence experience, first ever.
Yeah.
Which wasn't a class at all. I think, even though I was part of it, involved in putting it on, I actually think I possibly got the most out of it. I think I got the most out of it. I think that the person that benefited the most from that was me because, and I'm going to tell you, don't laugh. Dude, this was a profound experience for me. In my ascension to being at the top of the craps playing world, which is where I'm going to be, this was a very profound experience. I've told this to other people, so it's not just me kissing your ass, which I wouldn't do anyway. You are a gifted teacher. You're gifted at that. That is your calling, dude.
Thank you.
Everyone learns differently. Shooting, when you sat me down at the bar with Mudslide, after we went out, you're like, I need to fix your toss.
Yep. I told you that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And you were stubborn and didn't want me to fix it.
But to my credit, I will go, okay, let's try this. Let's give this a shot. And so that I can fully, instead of doing something half-ass, let's do it the full, proper way.
Right.
Right? You can appreciate how much practice that you put into that side, because I never, for example, so I was never a shooter per se. My mind thinks in terms of betting, always has. I don't think about shooting. I'm like, okay, cool. You go take a class with Howard, with Heavy, you see this. It's like, oh, okay, I can do that. I think the class or whatever, the experience.
The event or experience.
What I learned, I had some epiphanies, a lot of them. I guess the big takeaway would be making things constant. There are certain aspects of a toss or a throw that I'm now making constant, removing the variables. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Such as
you paid attention.
I was able to pay attention because I had a, what is it? A bird's eye view? Is it a cat's eye view? Bird's eye view?
Bird's eye. Yeah. You were the stick man between me and Bo.
Second day, I was also sitting in the chair watching from straight out. Here's the main things. I'm like, okay, cool. I want to see if I can do this. And to do it properly, you have to do all the things that you've been preaching about that I have just fucking basically ignored because didn't want to do any of that shit. Wasn't going to do any of that shit. Didn't understand all the charts. But when you start seeing the charts, having someone guide you through a piece of paper that's got a million numbers on it, which I mean, that's daunting, dude. You look at it and you're like, what the fuck? It's easier to crumple it up, throw it over your shoulder and go, fuck this, than actually dig into it. So what did I learn? The key thing was moving where I'm shooting from. I was a stick left shooter.
We worked on that at the event with different people that wanted to learn different positions.
Well, coincidentally, some of my biggest roles were at stick right one. And then I look back on things and I'm like, why the fuck don't I shoot stick right one ever?
It's kind of like looking at your win-loss statements and going, "Oh, I need to play here more."
Yeah, it's like sometimes these things are just so obvious that you miss them. They're right in front of your face. I'm like,
Yep.
wait a second. And then when I switched over that one night, I shot from stick right one because I always had a good long rolls from stick. Why am I not playing here? So let's properly learn stick right one. So here's the key things that I learned, the big takeaways. Locking myself in position when you were giving that example of putting your hip in there, locking your hips in. Because from stick right one, it's your tendency, I was always confused where my landing zone was. And we talked about this on the other podcast last week, was it's awkward because sometimes I want to throw it parallel to the table. It makes your elbow up and cockeyed sort of because it's an
Yep.
awkward position. But locking yourself in, your hip, your right hip in, almost sort of at a diagonal, shooting into the hook. So your body is aligned with where you're going to throw into the hook. So then the next question was my left hand. My left hand. Nice. My left hand can just be anchored right up there, right at the stick man. So now I'm anchored, my whole lower body anchored in up against the table, left hand there. I'm in position. It's almost like when you're lifting weights, you have to have a solid base.
Yeah.
Ed, now the question was, where am I lining up my dice? Because I didn't know. Do I keep it in front of me? Where is that spot? You were like, it's right at the wall.
Yep.
3 variables now I've just made constants so that they're not affecting the outcome. I'm standardizing them.
Mm-hmm.
And that made sense. This is where I'm starting my toss. There is no backswing. They're starting from the deck right at the wall. The fourth constant that has now been added, or I've removed another variable. And this would be when we talked about grip. This was the epiphany. Watching some people toss, like Memo, I was struck with the fact that there was almost no rotation on his dice, right? Even though
Yeah.
he's shooting from stick
Yep.
left one. And then you were talking when you were giving an example about how you grip the dice low, which is something I never do. I'm always gripping them close to their edges, their top edges.
Mm-hmm.
But for stick right one, where that is, it's more natural for me to grip them almost all the way down. It eliminates me putting a lot of rotation on the dice, which
Right.
on the set that I was using, which I prefer, which I'm only using from stick right one, which is a 5-4-4-5 set. When I would put too much rotation on that set, like I was throwing it from stick left one, I was getting a lot of 5-2s, a lot of 4-3s, 7s that you would naturally think I would get
Yep.
because it's essentially a hardways set, the 5-4-4-5.
Yeah. One die rotated. Yeah.
I've eliminated my fourth variable, made that as constant as can be. So now the only other possible things that could be affecting my throw are my landing zone and my actual toss.
Yep.
The toss was helped tremendously by the grip so down low. And when you said this to me, try to land that back face right down onto the, I don't know how you described it.
I described it as visualizing the faces that are your thumb are touching, landing face down on the table.
You can't have a lot of rotation on it. It's like a drop shot.
Yeah.
As gentle as you can throwing into that hook.
Yeah.
Now we've got all these things locked in so that I'm not questioning anything. I can put these on autopilot.
Yeah.
It's basically standardized. So I have eliminated variables, and the only variables are really going to be wherever I throw it.
That's number whatever. You got to hit the same spot.
You're really on your way to giving yourself the best chance for success. I'll commit to working on this set from this position, throwing the same set. Beautiful setup too, man. I got laptop cleared off space, got bone tracker in there, and it's actually fun.
Yeah. And it pisses you off when you throw a 7 too soon, doesn't it?
Going and watching Howard is when I first,
Yeah. Yeah.
when I saw his dice move together in air in unison, rotating like that. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So I've been doing that. But you can't do that from stick right one. I don't want any rotation on it. I just want them to drop right in there and land. I eliminated that rotation because of the grip, because of where I'm gripping it. That made the biggest difference. Where I'm gripping it, where I'm starting my shot from on the deck. And I feel so confident with it. I now have a pathway to at least conduct a proper experiment.
Mm. There's a lot of science involved, even though there's a lot of naysayers too. So yeah, but there is science involved.
Removing variables, it's the right way to do it.
It's the only way to do it.
And there were more variables when I was throwing from stick left one, where I was putting the dice, where my hand was, how my arm was, all of that stuff. And honestly, I'm thinking, well, I need to get rotation. But actually, after watching people, I'm like, man, I don't want rotation on these dice. I want to just drop these babies in there. So I rolled it out. And then on my second bone tracker thing, I was like, fuck, man, I rolled a 28 roller. And I kept getting similar numbers when I would run 36. Similar numbers. I'm looking forward to doing this for the next couple months. By the way, I'm removing another variable. I'm just using the same set.
No, you got to you must use the same set for you get results that we can analyze. Yes.
Now it makes sense. The coaster chart, what you were explaining to everyone, which might go over people's heads if you're not familiar with it. But if you become this familiar with your set, now you know it's easy. I'm just going to flip these. Like I'm going to flip both dice and either rotate or the left or right die. In this case, my set, I'm just flipping them to get other numbers that I might not be hitting in case if you needed to get those. But I digress here. The point is that it was very inspirational now knowing, okay, I've got a pathway to practice.
Yeah.
I've got a pathway now to match up how I think about the game, which is betting. I'm going to use Bone Tracker now to complement my betting style.
Bone Tracker, once you get enough logged in consistently, you'll know what numbers to bet.
Here's the other thing. So big news flash, Ed. I'm pretty much done playing until crap season opens in 2025. You listening to me? I'm done
listening to you.
Going out and doing casual playing. All right. I'm gonna practice and work on this for the next couple months.
Yeah.
And then figure out a way that I can complement my betting system and strategies with this. And I think that's going to up my game tremendously. By the way, the ramifications of me doing this is changing everything for next year. Also, another result of this experience or the event. Why have I been going to all these other tables? That makes no fucking sense. Why have I making these variables the same? Just as I did stance, arm, where the dice were placed, grip. Why am I not making the other side of things constants so that I'm only playing Bellagio, which is more similar to my table where I practice on? Logically, it makes more sense. I'm going to get results that are more congruent with what I'm throwing here. Same thing with there's that table at Paris.
Congruent. What a great mathematical term.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't know this, but as an engineering student, I appreciate that term.
Nice, man. You'll appreciate the fact that I'm only now identifying. So here are the tables in my head. There's the one table at Paris that I like, that crapless table. I feel like has potential. There's a one table at Aria as well, which has potential if I'm going to play at Aria, but Bellagio, and then Caesars, the one table where we didn't play at, and which I wanted to play at, we didn't play at. It's the one that's perpendicular right when you walk in. We didn't get a chance to play that table.
Why didn't we play it?
Because there were people on there and then it closed. I don't know why we didn't play it. Why didn't we play it? I don't know. But you know what? Going forward, I'm only going to play these tables and I'm going to eliminate all the other ones, all of the other ones. And I'm going to go with the same bankroll, do the same thing, and not fuck around in 2025.
Let's do this. let's make $100,000 on the tables in 2025.
I would like that. And I think it's doable. So, Ed, can I tell you what I did then?
Yeah.
I took it out for a test drive and I was mad. You know me, I was mad about that Caesars loss.
Yeah. I'm still mad about it myself.
I went to Caesars, okay, back to the scene of the crime, dude, with a plan. You know how I was saying I had a plan? Well, in
Mhm.
my practice, guess what I've been throwing, Ed? I've been throwing a lot of fucking box numbers, sixes, eights, nines, fives, oddly enough, 12s. Okay. Oddly enough. Remember that. Okay. Because I had to go pay off a marker at Paris first.
Right. Right.
I just wanted to get it cleared up or get the balance paid off before I left town.
Right.
I also wanted to bet a little bigger, go in bigger. That's the other thing I was saying about like with moonshine. Well, I'm going to get my levels bigger because the levels I want to go at 2025, for example, are going to be starting at 250 on the 5 and 9, go up to 500. Next hit, I'm going to take down 1,000. The third hit, I'm going to take down almost another 500. I'm just going to do a press up to 500, regress, and then another regression on a third hit and clear like 1,500. But anyway, that's my betting plan on these numbers on where I'm going. But you have to be prepared for that. Hopefully, given the fact that I've practiced with this set, in theory, this will give me a little edge. Nines, fives, and actually eights. Those are my dominant numbers so far. Small sample size. I get it. But I also had a 12 in there. So, you know, I'm like, let's see how this works. Boom. 12. I only put a quarter on, right? Went up to 100.
Paid you 125, put 50 in the rack.
Couple rolls later, hit it again. Went up to 500, right? Ed, I was nervous. I get nervous. I do get nervous. You got 500 on a 12. It was just me at the table. It was beautiful. Locked in, hitting some numbers, pressing them up, fucking 12 again. You know what that paid? 3,000.
Perfect. Paid $3,000.
I bet this because I was hitting 12s from this position, from this set, throwing it this way on my table.
Yeah.
Listen, big deal. Maybe I'm making it prove my own theory. Anyway, paid off the marker, walked over to Caesars. Scene of the crime. Ed, I had a fucking epic roll at Caesars. You would have absolutely loved it. Got the dice locked in, stick right one, same thing. Beautiful. I would say at the high end, it's a 40. On the low end, it's a 38. When I actually counted it up at one point, I had 36. I was using the repeater. So I had $100 on the repeater. I hit the repeater.
Yeah.
12, 11, 4, 6, 8, 10. And I had the 5 laid.
Yeah. Yeah.
I started with 500 just on the inside. Immediately, I had the dealers play my numbers. I'm like, you're going to play this with me because I like this crew. Ed, I can't tell you how much of a star I felt like. That whole table was looking at me like I owned it. I wish you could have seen it because when you're on that kind of roll, everyone knows what you're doing. Dude, I just kept rolling, same setup, hitting the same spot. That is a monster roll, dude. So much so, the crew, we were just working in complete unison. It was a beautiful, like synchronized swimming. Like I was the only person there and they were just working with me. The guy came over to change sticks. She turned to him. Well, I don't know what she said, but she's like, we're in the middle of a great roll. And then I said, can you stay? Can you please? She's like, I can stay. Looked over at the floor and I'm like, Dave, I saw his name tag. I'm like, could she stay? He just like shrugged his head like it was okay. I'm like, I got you guys up on all these. And then she stayed.
Yeah. Perfect.
She stayed. And I just kept shooting and shooting. And dude, the sixes, the eights, crushing them again, hitting those 12s. I mean, I ended up throwing 3 12s in that hand through 5 11s.
Oh,
Remember, this wasn't crapless though. This was just a regular craps
yeah,
table.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay.
But I threw 9 8s, 9 6s, dominant. This was a legit hand. And I was staring at people. They were just looking at me. Everyone knew this was a solid roll, but it was made possible by me paying attention in the event and applying everything and wrapped it up into how I was going to bet.
Yeah,
My betting was on point. I knew exactly what I was going to do. If I was going to lay a number, I was laying it immediately. So the transaction was effortless. There wasn't any interruption in this roll. The closest thing to an interruption came when the stick was possibly going to get switched out, but it didn't. I made 8,000. I got all that
yeah,
money back, Ed. And it was satisfying to do that. And I'm mad that I sevened out. I felt like I
yeah,
could, should
yeah,
have, and could have kept going.
yeah,
I know I have the potential now to take them for a lot of money if I had started my bets higher. If I wasn't in collect mode, getting my money back mode, I feel like I
yeah.
could have been in more attack mode. So, Ed, I'm having a drink after that roll. Why are these people not passing the dice back to me? Not passing the dice back to me. They should. I would. Ed, I'm not going to bet on anyone. The only person I'm betting on is me. This is what I mean by an epiphany. This was a major breakthrough. I understand now what you meant about qualifying shooters. I was content just waiting and waiting, and maybe I'll qualify someone like you.
Absolutely.
Forget just betting on any random person. Why even bother?
You've learned a lot. And done.
I'm removing an edge by going to, let's say, Virgin or going to places that I don't do well at. Why am I even going down there? Why am I going there? I need to go with this bankroll, with this position that I want to play in, and just wait. Pretty methodical, killer.
There you go.
I don't need to bet on anyone. I'm going to bet on myself.
Perfect. Perfect.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
I hope that people got what I got out of this. If I can become like a shooter, I think I'm going to be even more deadly of a player.
I call it the shooter's mentality. And I mean, and you've got to have the shooter's mentality.
Ed, what goes into shooter's mentality? You have to have confidence. Where do you get confidence?
You got to have confidence from your practice.
Exactly.
Then you've got to shoot the dice and say, am I getting what I'm expecting to get with this set? And if you are, you need to turn on the hyperjets and blister their ass.
You need to be ready to strike, dude.
All right. So then if you're not getting what you expect, but you're getting something else, you need to be poised to recognize that and go ahead and take advantage of it.
What do you mean by that? If you're not getting,
Well, maybe your 6 8 sets giving you fours and tens or fours and fives. Just say it's giving you fours and fives instead of sixes and eights. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just happening. But you've got to have the mentality to recognize, oh, I'm not getting what I expect, but I'm getting those. Let's pile the money over there. Let's go with the fours and fives or whatever it is you're hitting. You're hitting something, but that's because you're a practice shooter. You're not going to have exactly the same toss every session. You're not going to be on the same table sometimes. And even if you are, you're still not going to get the same results every single time. And you've got to be able to you go into it knowing what you expect, and then you're trying to see if you get what you expect.
so this might be a dumb question, dude, but for me and how my brain thinks after incorporating and using Bone Tracker, using this software, which is a nice way to give me a framework to study, I'm just thinking how I can apply it to kill them with how I bet. Do people even think like that?
I do.
But I feel like you should be thinking like this. The numbers that you should be hitting after you've thrown a book with this set and you practice this set, in a perfect world, you should be able to like identify these numbers, and there's no reason or excuse for you to not tailor your betting strategies and lean into those numbers. And I mean heavy, dude. I want to lean in hard so that I can really hurt them.
So you're not betting the sister number every time.
No, dude, because I don't hit the sister numbers. When you start looking at that, you're hitting one of them.
You hit. I've seen people throw, you know, 15 sixes and only throw 3 8s. Why would you bet the 8? Why would you bet the 8? Why would you press the 8?
Ed, and what happened at Caesars is that my six didn't heat up till later on in the roll, dude. I already nailed the 8, and then the 8 stopped, and then the 6 just
Yeah,
kept
that'll
taking off.
happen. That will happen.
Boom, boom, boom. Easy 6, hard 6. All, it was like 4 rolls. I had 3 sixes. I mean, the 6 just went up there.
Yeah.
I feel like not only if people are just focused in on like practicing their toss, but are they actively tailoring their betting plan and
You've got
attack
to.
plan?
You've got to. You've got to bet. Number one, going in, you gotta figure, okay, here's what I expect to hit. I'm hitting it, great. Boom, 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 boom. I'm not hitting it. Okay, let me adjust. Is it a set or do I want to change? And so if you don't change, then you need to bet what you're hitting.
When I was walking over to the casino, dude, I was walking over like I was going to kill someone. Like I was on a mission. I had a plan.
Eye of the tiger, baby. Eye of the tiger. It's like Rocky.
A full length extended version of this podcast is available exclusively on our Patreon page. New episodes drop weekly every Tuesday. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and will tell all of your fellow craps playing friends about it. Please follow Casino Tears on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. If you like the show, please rate it 5 stars and leave a review. The best and most fun way to contact us would be to call and leave a message on our official Casino Tears vent line, 229-07. You can also email us at no7@casinotears.com. And lastly, to help support this podcast, you can visit our Patreon at patreon.com/casinotears. On behalf of Roll to Win Craps from Alabama and 10 Ton is number 1 from Las Vegas, thanks for listening.